Well, Vince, we've been going for a little while now. You ready for rapid fire?
I'm always ready for rapid fire, baby. Let's go.
We can talk about some of this other stuff that happened this weekend as well. But let's start with this. Thanks for the super chat, Lou
Ooh,
Holtz Thunder and Bolts.
I love that name.
He asks, 1 year from now, Sam Hartman will 1, be a backup in the NFL, 2, be playing in the CFL, 3, a graduate assistant for a Division I program, or 4, lead spokesman for Gillette. What do you think, Vince?
He's been replaced in the Gillette standpoint, so I think I'm going to cross off number 4. I don't think he's ready to jump into coaching just yet, so I'll cross off number 3. I think he's got a really good chance to be a backup in the NFL. I do. I think he's a smart kid. I think he, can work hard. I think he's got backup written all over him. And I think he could be a guy who is a career backup, gets a start here and there, all of those different things. I think that could be Sam Hartman moving forward. I do.
Yeah, he's not going to go straight to the Canadian Football League because just like the way it works, because of the fact that their seasons,
that's true.
CFL is playing during the summer because it's colder
Right
up there and all that stuff. So like that is the time that you're devoted to NFL training camp. I could see CFL maybe in a year or two if things don't work out in the NFL and he decides he wants to play more and maybe
Sure.
the CFL gives him some opportunities. I could see him actually having a very long and prosperous career in the CFL, actually. But I think, your definition of backup, I think that it is more likely that at least the start of his career is in the vein of Ian Book. Like I can see practice squad to start off his career and kind of see where it goes from there. Like if we want to consider practice squad a backup, technically he's still a quarterback on and, not the active roster, but practice squad. I think he's probably going to be kind of in that ballpark to start off his career a year from now. So whether he gets drafted or late or ends up being an undrafted free agent, I think that he's got it. He'll at the very least be a practice squad quarterback for an NFL team next year.
I will say this. I think Sam Hartman is a better NFL quarterback potentially than Ian Book was, okay, with his skill set. And so if Ian Book can cash an NFL paycheck, so can Sam Hartman. Now, Ian Book is not currently cashing an NFL paycheck.
I was going to say, he's not anymore. It lasted for 2 years.
Right, but he did for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so the question is, a year from now, I think he's going to be a legit backup.
So you think he'll be a number 2?
I think he could be a number 2, depending on where he ends up. Yeah, I do. Because I think whoever he gets drafted by, I think there's a chance he'll get cut. And then I think he'll survey the landscape and he'll end up on a team that has very poor quarterback depth. And I think he'll ascend to the number 2 spot.
All right.
That's how I think it's going to go.
I'm curious to track it. By the way, did you ever find the soccer game? Were you able to pull it up on your computer?
Down 1-0.
Oh, man. Early, huh?
That's
only like the second goal that Dowd has given up. Or is it Dowd?
Yeah.
The entire tournament.
I didn't see how it happened, but it's 1-0. There's about 10 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah. Father David says, up there, you're practically in Canada, Sean. I think South Bend would actually be a nice place for a Canadian Football League franchise. Remember when?
That'd be great.
Gosh, I guess it's been a while. It's probably been at least. Remember, like the CFL tried to expand into the States, and I think they had a team in Vegas and different places around the U.S. It didn't quite work out, but that would actually be kind of cool. Like use Notre Dame Stadium, some NFL football in the summer. That'd be fun.
I'd love that. I'd love every second of that. That'd be great.
Absolutely. All right. I got some other questions for you here as we continue with rapid fire. Irish defensive lineman Howard Cross announced that he's coming back to Notre Dame for his 6th and final season. Scale of 1 to 10. How important is Cross's return for the Irish?
273.4. I think it's massively important. I think that you could make an argument even though Xavier Watts was the best player in college football, apparently on the defensive side of the ball, that, Howard Cross III was the best player on Notre Dame's defense this year. I think that he was really, really good. He's just an interior defensive lineman, so he doesn't get a lot of love. You know what I mean? At least not nationally, although he just made an All-American by one of the services. So he's getting some love from somebody. But I think it's incredibly important just to solidify the middle of that defense. I'm pumped about that. When I heard that he was coming back, that made me very excited about what this defense could be.
It's huge. I agree. John said 10. DK, take it to 11. Because to have a guy, one, with the experience that he has, two, to play at the level that he played at, like, how many nose guards are their team's second leading tackler?
Yeah.
Especially like when you're talking about a high quality, high end Division I, FBS program like Notre Dame, and he had 64 tackles. You just don't see that from a nose guard, and so to do what he did, to be able to come back and anchor the middle of that line, especially, you've already got for sure J.D. Bertrand and Maris Leofau gone, so you're losing experience with linebackers, and I know that excites a lot of people. But for those young linebackers that are going to be coming in, get the playing time behind them, to have a guy like that in front of them to chew up blocks and to be destructive in the middle the way he's able to, I think that's just huge for them. And it took a while, but they finally let those defensive linemen get out there and hunt this season. And Howard Cross was the top hunter on that squad.
Agreed. Sorry,
are you fixated on soccer now that I mentioned it?
I was reacting to a clear foul in the box that they didn't call. Notre Dame should have had a PK, but that was terrible. Anyway, sorry, I'm focused on you now, Sean Stiers.
That's all right.
But you're made, all the points you made were 100% accurate. You just always come with stats, and all your stats are, of course, accurate. But it just reiterated the point that I made. He's the anchor of that defense, and the effect that it's going to have, like you said, on those young linebackers is going to be existential. If he can eat up blocks and allow those guys with their speed and their length to just float around without, having to deal with a bunch of guys in their face, it's going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge. So if those young linebackers have a year, a lot of that is going to be attributed to Howard Cross.
Look, and you usually don't see a guy like this, because he's already been here for 5 years. He's coming back for year number 6 now. And for him to have a season like he just had, most guys would just say, look, my stock is never going to be any higher. I'm going to capitalize it. I'm going to go to the NFL. But he's going to come back. He wants to keep getting better. I think, maybe like the fact that he's 288 has helped him, like the agility and stuff like that. But I think, a little bit more girth probably helps him out for the long haul as well as he looks to the NFL a year from now.
Sure.
Now they just got to get up. I didn't even mention before. We got to, there's a Riley Mills decision pending potentially.
Yes, there is.
So still got that to look forward to.
Man, if he says he's coming back, man, how good do you feel about the interior of that defense? You know what I mean? Woo!
Love it. Fill in the blank. Notre Dame getting the commitment of Clemson wide receiver Beaux Collins is blank.
Needed. It was needed. I think that he's going to be a nice fit for Notre Dame. I don't know that he's like your quote unquote number one receiver or anything like that, but I think that, bringing him in, he's got some size, he's got some length, a little worried about his injury history, that kind of a thing. But I will say, I really like the fact that they targeted, they targeted 3 wide receivers. 2 of them,
they've got 2 of them.
2 of them are coming, right? And so I feel really, really good about the manner in which, Marcus Freeman and his staff went after these guys. And I love the fact that they're like, yeah, we're in. You know what I mean? And as much crap as Notre Dame receiving corps has taken this whole season, these 2 guys who are arguably, 2 of the top receivers in the portal were like, yeah, we're coming to Notre Dame. I think that says a lot. I do.
Absolutely. I think it says a lot for Notre Dame. It says a lot for, what they're out there looking for in a quarterback, since we know, the quarterback they want to land. He visited last week. I think that it all goes together. And, again, just like Chris Mitchell is more, going to play like field side, the Z type receiver, but, you've got a little bit bigger body, 6'3", 210 out of Collins, and more a boundary guy. And this is immediate needs that they needed to fill, because even with the core of relatively young talent, high-end talent that they've got coming back, and Jaden Daniels is, Jaden Thomas rather.
Jaden Thomas, yeah,
is talented as well, but he's kind of in the older group, and so is Deion Colsey. I mean, you've got both of them, but to have guys who can address the immediate need of getting guys on the outside, and one for each of those outside positions, I think is just really huge. I mean, he's not necessarily, like track champion or anything like that, but at the same time, he was at Clemson, highly recruited, highly regarded. He's had a solid career. Like you said, maybe some concerns with injury and stuff like that, but he addresses immediate need, and you've got potential for a couple guys who can kind of help come in a little bit a la Sam Hartman, with the leadership in that quarterback room. They can potentially, being veteran type guys, give some leadership to those young guys and kind of show them how to go about your work on a daily basis.
Yep, absolutely.
And they also added Mike Brown, the guy from Wisconsin, and he is going to, what do you think about the fact that Brown is going to be able to come in and he's going to coach in the Sun Bowl?
I honestly shocked. I was shocked by that announcement. That is not a normal set of circumstances, because they already announced that Jared Parker was going to coach the receivers, and now we get the announcement of Brown, and he's like, no, they're going to bring him in immediately. He's going to coach the receivers. He's going to coach in the bowl game. Like, I was very surprised by that, but at the same time, it's the right move. I didn't think you could. I didn't know you could or couldn't do it, I guess is the best way to put it. But I love the move. Let him get in there and get his hands on these guys. He doesn't have to be a bystander during all these practices now that he's cleared, with all the background check and all that stuff. I mean, he gets to be there and he gets to be involved. He's not just sitting on the sidelines. I bet, we know that this wide receiving core needs an overhaul, right? From a coaching standpoint, that's why they made a change. And so I absolutely love the fact that he's able to just jump right into this thing. I'm excited.
I think if it was a quarterback coach, for example, like, you could still do it, but I think it would be a little bit tougher just because you sort of have a specific philosophy. And I don't know that you'd necessarily want a quarterback coach kind of come in and, kind of start tinkering between the end of the regular season and a bowl game. But when you're dealing with this specific situation, I think it makes a lot of sense for a guy to come in and, at the very least, kind of try to set a new standard of fundamentals and just, kind of how things are done, but also it gives both him and the current guys on the roster kind of a chance to get familiar with each other before spring comes around. So I think that can be really advantageous to both of them. And then, once the bowl game is done and you get into January, you get the new guys, the transfers coming in, and whoever ends up coming in, like early enrollees and stuff like that. So I think it's awesome, because they obviously decided that they needed to make the move, with Chancey Stuckey, and to be able to get Brown in, have him establish his standards right away, I think is going to be really good for everybody.
And you make a really good point about the actual position that he's coaching, because you can coach up a wide receiver without even knowing the playbook.
Right.
You can coach up, you can coach a lot of fundamental things about wide receiver. I don't care what the play is called. Like, I know what route you're supposed to run here. I know how you're supposed to, the releases, the top ends of the routes, blocking, all of those different things. You can get a lot accomplished without being, locked in on what the playbook says.
Michael says, if we don't define a number one receiver to be the face of the room, it's not going to work. Chemistry, rhythm, passing the ball comes from doing it in the big games with confidence. They were definitely lacking a true number one, and it seemed to work early in the season, but I think for a myriad of different reasons, it didn't work as the season went on. But you have, with these two guys coming in, Mitchell and Collins, you've got the potential, like you've got number one type qualities, I think, in both of these guys.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I don't necessarily subscribe to the theory that you need a number one receiver. I don't subscribe to that. If you have one, awesome. But I honestly don't think you need one. I think this wide receiver room, lacked identity top to bottom. I think they lacked an identity. I think we all assumed Jaden Thomas was going to be the number one guy, and he got hurt. And then it was like, okay, now what do we do? You know what I mean? And so they didn't have much of an identity this year. And you can blame whoever you want to blame or however you want to blame it. I just don't think they had an identity. They need an identity. And if a number one guy happens to be there, great. If he goes down, who steps up and takes that spot? That's what they didn't have, right? And so that's what I think they need to figure out.
I concur with that. There was a comment that I was just looking at. Lloyd Christmas. What's up with Leonard, y'all? We got our first real Riley Leonard question. How confident are you as we sit here and wait for Riley Leonard's announcement that he's going to end up in blue and gold next year, Vince?
Scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
9.5. Like, I feel really good about it. I don't feel like it's going to be a case where, he's going to go to Ohio State or anything like that. Like, I feel pretty good about it,
I think it would be much more of I think it'd be much more of a drastic. I was surprised at Ohio State's interest.
Me too. He doesn't fit. He doesn't fit what they do.
Like you talk about changing like the system that's completely outside. Now he's definitely more mobile, like some of the guys they have had before, but just from a passing standpoint, he doesn't seem like he's a fit for what they've been doing for a long time. Like, he definitely brings more mobility than Kyle McCord did, but
sure,
just a lot different. Yeah, I'm 9+ that he's going to end up here as well. And I just saw a question about whether or not he's a fit. Really doesn't matter at this point because all signs are pointing to him being here. And again, like, I think you have to throw out what your vision of Notre Dame's system is, because as much as anything, the fact that they are interested in Riley Leonard, I think, shows you more about what Jared Parker actually wants to be than what we saw from the offense this year. And I think Jesse and I were talking about this last week. Remember the timing of, by the time Parker got hired, it was almost spring practice. So, like, is Jared Parker really going to just throw out the playbook that he had been working under for a year with like 2 weeks to prepare for spring? Is he going to throw away the playbook and try to implement all this new stuff at that point when you already have brought in Sam Hartman and all these different things? I think that if he's going to make drastic changes to what the offense is going to look like, this is the time to do it now, a year later, before the offseason even gets here.
Look at the quarterback that he recruited, Deuce, right? Look at the quarterback that he recruited in the transfer portal, Riley Leonard. I think that gives you an idea of what he wants at quarterback. I think I just feel like, if given the option, that's the kind of quarterback that he is going to go after. And so we'll see if the offense now adjusts to the talent level of a Riley Leonard or whoever comes in. We'll see. The proof's in the pudding, right? We're not going to find out until September of 2024, because you're certainly not going to see a new playbook in a couple of weeks when they play Oregon State. So, we're going to have to see how it goes. I believe that he was not running the offense that he ideally would like to run, but we'll see.
I agree with that as well. Carberry Q wants to know how confident we are in Mickens staying as the DB coach.
I'm confident he's going to get job offers elsewhere. It just depends on whether if they're to his liking or not. Are we ranking?
I would hope that he wouldn't leave Notre Dame to go be like the coordinator at a MAC school or something like that.
Agreed. No, I agree with that. Just to get the title. To get the title. Yeah, I would have a problem with that, to be honest with you as well. The only way I could see him leaving is if he got a head coaching job or a coordinator at a Power 5. I could see that being the case. I just feel like there's a lot to keep him here, though, too. There's a lot to keep him here. There's a lot of talent in his room that he's got that he can really make a name for himself if he sticks around. And I'm not saying that he's the heir apparent to Al Golden. It's a pretty solid situation that he's sitting in currently.
And I think we've talked about this
next year, the year beyond or whatever.
The NFL regular season has, I think it's 4 more weeks. And at that point, you're going to start to see a lot, coaches are going to get lopped off. They're going to be head coaching opportunities that are going to come open. Coordinators are going to get promoted to head coach in some cases, and all new staffs are going to be hired. And Al Golden is going to be on the, at the top of a lot of lists for some of those jobs. Specific, he's not going to become an NFL head coach, but he's most likely going to be a fairly sought after defensive coordinator.
Agreed.
In the NFL. So that's what you're going to have to keep an eye on is a month from now when that stuff starts happening. Does Mike Mickens get promoted to defensive coordinator if Al Golden leaves? Those kind of things. In the meantime, you do kind of have to start thinking about, okay, what other title can we give him? How much more pay raise can we give him, to keep him around here? If that comes up, how good is the possibility, or how good is the coordinator position potentially that he gets offered to get him to leave? All those different kind of things.
Yeah,
so
there's gonna be a lot.
Again, I think when NFL stuff starts happening here within the next 3 or 4 weeks, that's when you're really going to have to kind of be on high alert for some of these guys.
Right. Yeah.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that Michigan quarterback JJ McCarthy got a first place Heisman vote.
Does a sigh work for that? Who placed that vote? Do they say who placed that vote? Because it had to have been a Michigan beat writer who graduated from the school. That's the only way that he should have gotten a first place vote.
Or is covering the school.
Come on.
I was shocked that Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State and Cody Schrader from Missouri each got first place votes as well.
Come on.
My first instinct was take the votes away from these guys. But at the same time, there's so many people who vote for the Heisman.
I know.
I know that there's no former Missouri Heisman winners who are out there casting a vote, but Desmond Howard could have thrown JJ McCarthy a vote, Charles Woodson could have thrown JJ McCarthy a vote because they get votes as well.
This is true.
So
okay.
It would not surprise me if Desmond.
It was definitely Desmond Howard.
Vote, right?
It was definitely Desmond Howard. I'm saying it now. Put it out on Twitter, whatever. Desmond Howard voted JJ McCarthy first place for the Heisman. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Because he would do something like that.
Right.
I'm sorry. He would. He would.
Maybe Barry Sanders threw Ollie Gordon a vote out there. I don't know. Raise your hand if you had seen Ollie Gordon do anything. Did you? Well, I don't know. I guess everyone's entitled to throw their vote the way they want, but the fact that those 3 guys got votes is just...
That's laughable.
Yeah. It's do you actually take your vote seriously? Come on.
That's
I guess laughable. You can tell that guy at some point at a dinner party that you gave him your first place vote when it comes to it.
Wow.
So, Vince, you were there when the Bears knocked off the Lions yesterday, and now they remain in line to get the number 1 pick in next year's draft because Carolina is 1-12, and of course they traded last year's number 1 pick. They swapped number 1 picks with Carolina. So where are you right now in terms of what the Bears should be doing? Are you team keep Justin Fields? Are you team trade the pick? Or are you team draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, potentially? Drake May, who just declared for the draft today, I think right around the time the show was starting, as a matter of fact.
Drake May is nowhere on the decision list.
Okay.
For me. So really what it comes down to are the first 3 options that you gave, right? Do they keep the number 1 pick and draft Caleb Williams? Oh, what's up?
No, I'm just.
That's number 1. Gotcha.
That's number 1.
So you draft Caleb Williams, and then number 2, trade it away. Okay. And number 3, Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Those,
Right.
those are, I think
those
are
Marvin Harrison Jr. even. Okay, so he's in your, no.
Yeah, he's up there. Because if you're going to stick
I
with
didn't even
Justin
think about
Fields,
that. But if I'm the Bears, that might be.
If you're sticking with Justin Fields, you've got to put weapons around
Now
him.
remember, they get their own pick as well, but that's falling because they're winning games now.
Right.
So.
Right. As a Lions fan said to me as we were walking out, he goes, I just don't understand it. Could have been a win-win. We win the game, you get a better draft pick. I don't get it. It was funny.
Let me ask. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I honestly, at this point, I would like to sit in a room with Caleb Williams, to be perfectly honest with you. I want to
see where his head is.
Yeah. I need to know where, because we've heard just ridiculousness coming out of his camp about how he wants to own part of the team, which is illegal, by the way, but just all of this different nonsense that he wants to, do. I need to get in a room with him and find out where his head is, number one. I think you can get some capital by trading Justin Fields as well. There's going to be NFL teams that would take him as their starting quarterback. So there is that, right? So I don't know what I would do right now, Sean. I really don't. I like what Justin Fields brings to the Bears. I think he can be a winner, but you've got to help him out. You've got to help him out on both sides of the ball.
They got him DJ Moore. I like that. The problem with what he's got, DJ Moore is really good. Mooney is not bad. Right. You saw it yesterday, like just the natural with that low arm slot that Fields has. There were a handful of throws that should have been layups, but he kind of gets underneath the ball and they sail a little bit, and instead of high percentage throws, they sail. And because he's got those short receivers out there, that's an issue. They definitely need to get him a bigger target. And I hadn't really even considered the Marvin Harrison thing. Like, are you really going to take Marvin Harrison at number one? I think there's probably a better chance that you trade the pick.
There you go.
Trade down.
Yeah, I think that you look at a trade possibility there. You got to pit. Let's see what happens as far as like where the draft order comes, right? But you've got to pit some of those teams against each other. And I'm all for it. If you decide that that's the first decision that needs to be made. Can you win with Justin Fields? If the answer is yes, now you've got to pit some teams against each other to get the best draft, capital that you can for that number one pick, and hope that you can either land a top offensive tackle, you got to land a top wide receiver. If you can land Marvin Harrison Jr. and the best offensive tackle, Joe Alt, then you're going to be in great shape moving forward.
See, and that's the thing too, is the Bears have a horrible history of drafting offensive linemen in the first round. Like, I think it's literally been like 20 plus years since they've gone after an offensive lineman in the first round. The fact that they've got two picks, like if that Joe Alt is great that you say, they could really use a left tackle. And Fields has really started to turn the corner here. I mean, it's easy to forget he was injured for a while, and like since he came back, they are playing better. He does stand in the pocket, I think, a little bit too long sometimes and kind of eat some sacks as a result. But man, he can do some things with his legs once he gets going. And, somebody said that he's better than Caleb Williams. It's true. He's better than Caleb Williams now, but it's also taken him 3 years to get to this point. But I agree. I think if you continue to put some pieces around him, that he can be dangerous, and that offense could really be dangerous.
Because I think he's done a good job of adjusting his game from his rookie year until now as well. Like, he's willing to slide now. He wasn't so willing to slide, his first year, and that's what led to some of those injuries, right? I mean, he has perfected the slide. Let me tell you. I mean, he slid for no gain in that game yesterday. So, he's definitely adjusted his game, and I think you can win with Justin Fields. So I guess if you're going to, press me for an answer, which is fine, I would say you stick with Justin Fields and you package up the best thing you can get and still keep your original pick as the Bears, right?
Yeah.
And then you see, okay, get these teams underneath us, with the Panthers pick, right? You get those guys fighting with each other. Who wants Caleb Williams? Who wants him? You know what I mean? Who can give me the best? And then you drop down to like a 5 or a 6, maybe in that neighborhood, maybe like a 4 through 6. then you can still get that stud left tackle. You can still potentially get that wide receiver with, your Bears pick, wherever that ends up being. I mean, there's things that you can do, and then you load up on the back end as well. Another second round, another third round for that first round pick, And
then potentially get another another first round pick next year because you trade, like an extra first round pick next year.
Yes.
Because you traded down a little
100%.
bit.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. That would make a lot of sense. When you're a team that has a lot of needs, yeah, you're exactly right. I think that you're better off going that route than necessarily keeping that.
Because they've got some pieces. I mean, they have some decent pieces already in place. You just got to keep adding to it.
Everybody loves Montez Sweat as well.
Yeah.
That guy is nasty, man.
And he seems to be a good fit kind of culturally for the Bears, with that Monsters of the Midway kind of a deal. And he says all the right things, talks about the coaching staff. And, he had a quote about Eberflus and how he's held the team together through some rough times early, but now they're starting to roll a little bit.
I was going to say these few weeks have been big for Eberflus as well, because he was approaching the hot seat. But I mean, that's a signature win for him to get that win yesterday.
I agree.
All right. A lot of controversy with the Chiefs, with wide receiver Kadarius Toney being flagged for the offsides last night, which led to the potential game-winning touchdown at the end of the Chiefs-Bills game being negated, I guess. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid said that the offsides flag is embarrassing. Do you buy or sell that? What do you think about this whole situation?
Who was he referring to? Embarrassing for the Chiefs?
The flag being thrown was embarrassing.
Should have been embarrassing that you're
through the flag.
Basically. It's embarrassing that your kid can't line up. Like I saw some video actually right before the show. I was kind of surfing Twitter and I was looking, and there was somebody had a camera on him as he was lining up, and he looks over at the line judge like you're supposed to do as a wide receiver to check whether you're on or off the line of scrimmage. Something that a wide receiver does from the day they start being a wide receiver, like middle school. You teach a kid, hey, look over, make sure you're either on or off. He looks over at the official before he's even set, but he doesn't even wait for a signal from the official to tell him whether he's on or off. Right. So he didn't do the little thing that you need to do to make sure that you're on or off the line of scrimmage. Well, it's embarrassing for Toney that he was offsides. I'm sorry, you were offsides. That's the flag.
That's exactly right. What's more embarrassing is like the whole Patrick Mahomes meltdown as a result. It's really seriously. It's baffling, and I know Mahomes apologized for it today, but it's baffling that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes wanted to. I mean, I guess you're not going to point a finger at your own guy, but they're talking about, this is never called and all this stuff. Well, actually, there's been a lot about the fact that it had been called like 11 times, and there was an offensive offsides in the Cowboys-Eagles game last night. Afterwards, that was called. And Dan Orlovsky did a good breakdown. Like, I saw him, he went back and watched every play, and he showed multiple times where Toney was lined up in the same position. It just was never called at that point. So, there's two sides to that. One, the fact that he lined up like that all night and they never called it. But two, then they did call it in this one specific instance. But he never was checking with the officials, on or off the whole time.
That's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem.
Because they'll let you. If you check with them, they'll just tell you, back up a little bit. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And he never checked all night.
Kadarius
Toney's just a bad receiver. Right. Bad fundamentals, bad receiver. He's dropped balls all year long. Like Michael Hahn knows, he's a Giants fan. The fact that they wasted a first-round draft pick on him 4 years ago, like every Giants fan knows, this is just not a good NFL receiver. That's what the Chiefs have. They've never gone out and replaced Tyreek Hill with a real receiver, and that's why they're stuck with Kadarius Toney. It's like the guy made a mistake. You just got to eat it. That's what it comes down to. It's your mistake. It's not the official's mistake. They threw a flag. They should have been throwing flags all night on it, and they never did.
And so I have an issue with that, right? If it's a penalty, then you throw the flag, right? Now, it's not like they threw the flag after they scored the touchdown.
Right. They threw it
was
at the snap of the football.
It was immediate. Right now, as soon as they snapped the ball, it was a flag. And you can see the guy throwing it in the air, right? So you can be upset, but they need to redirect their anger inward.
In the right.
It's exactly your fault. Sorry, don't blame other people. You can be upset that the winning touchdown was called back. You should be upset that the winning touchdown was called back. It's not the official's fault.
Right.
Sorry.
I mean, it sucks because it was a crazy great play.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Happens sometimes.
I mean,
I've got one last question for you tonight.
Oh boy.
So Jimmy Traina from the SI Media podcast, he tweeted this photo recently, and he talked about it on his podcast last week. He went to dinner with a friend, and the friend orders a burger and a chicken sandwich. No sides, no French fries, no tater tots, none of that. Just a burger and a chicken sandwich. So he says his friend is deranged because during dinner, rather than like eat the entire burger first and then eat the entire chicken sandwich second, he was alternating bites of each during his meal. So I ask you, Vince, food connoisseur, what's the right call here? How do you eat if you're getting two sandwiches? Do you alternate, or do you have to eat all of one before you go to the other?
Number one, you know me well enough to know I eat all of something and then all of something else.
That's how my daughter is. Like if you give her 5 things on her plate, she will go like around the plate. She will save the best thing for last.
Ooh.
But she will eat all of each of the 5 things before she goes to the next.
That's actually really smart. I usually eat the thing I like the most first.
Thanksgiving, I had to tell her, you don't have to stuff yourself with all this other stuff before you get to your favorite thing. You can have some bites of, like.
Yeah, we're just talking about the burger situation and the chicken sandwich situation. You eat one,
got sidetracked there.
Then you eat the other. Period.
So you're definitely all of one, then all of the other.
Oh, 100%. The only time I mix and match, like if I have a steak or something like that, I'll dip it in the mashed potatoes and then get in there, get a little mix of texture. But most of the time I'm eating one thing, then I'm eating the other. 100%.
Sloppy Joe says, what's wrong with that? Joe Allen says, whatever way you want. And I definitely fall towards that.
Sure.
And then Fred says, I'd eat the burger and the chicken together. So just smash them on top of each other. I would go the alternating route. Personally, I like a little variety. Yeah, it's like I'm going to have a little bit of the burger, then a little bit of the chicken.
That's
mix it up a little bit. That's right. So maybe I'm the deranged one.
I think you are. I do like Sloppy Joe right here.
But I would also have like different sauces, I think, for each, like a little steak sauce, a little ketchup, a little mustard, like for the chicken, I'd have a little hot sauce, a little ketchup, whatever it happens to be.
Sloppy Joe says, I treat food like Nam, no rules.
You weren't in Nam, man. You weren't in Nam, you jive turkey.
You called me a jive turkey.
I think it was Saturday. I'm flipping around. That movie was on. And when I flipped it over, they were just getting into that scene.
And you sat there and you laughed.
Oh, I did, man. Awesome. Spinning the gun around. And
that's great.
We're saying naughty things because they're not true.
Oh, man.
Oh, Tropic Thunder. Or not Tropic Thunder. What was it? Tropic.
It's the basketball one where he's in the ABA with the Tropics. That's the name of the team.
The Tropics? Yeah.
No, that's not the name of the movie.
Semi-pro.
Yes.
They're the Tropics.
They're the Tropics from Flint, Michigan.
That's right.
Makes 0 sense.
Irish Marine 51 A1 with meatloaf. I like a meatloaf sandwich with a little Heinz 57 and mustard on it. That's my go-to right there. DK Flint Tropics. That's right, Mike.
There we go.
Semi-pro.
So you can always count on our people.
Nailed it for us.
Yes. Can always count on our people.
All right. Well, another one in the books, and it doesn't look like we had any more.
And we're still waiting.
We're still waiting for more breaking news to drop. That's right.
Here we go.
So who knows? I expect this week to be very eventful, though, in terms of breaking news. So
I do too. Because they need to get something figured out here.
Yep. When it breaks, we'll put a Band-Aid on it for you, and we'll be here and we'll talk about it.
Notre Dame's still down 1-0. Start of the second half. So
all right,
it's not good.
Have to go watch, get some goal scoring going here.
That's right.
Good luck in the national championship game. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. He's Vince. I'm Sean. Hit the like button if you would before you leave tonight, and of course, subscribe, rate, review on your podcast platforms, and we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.